Hello everyone, welcome back to the Play On Podcast Hurling Edition. In this part, me and Luke are going to have a look at the game that took place last weekend between Wexford and Laois. Wexford giving Laois an absolute battering by 5-31 to 1-23. The big scorers for Wexford, obviously, Rory O'Connor, popping up with a goal and 7. Conor MacDonald popping up with 2 goals and 4 from play as well. Wexford 5-31 in the end to Laois 1-23. Just an absolute battering. Even worse in my mind than the league game, which was 4-17 to 10 points to Wexford. This game's even worse for Laois and sets Wexford up nicely now for the semi final against Kilkenny.
Yeah, look, I know it probably wasn't much of a contest, and this game's over very quickly. But Wexford's probably very happy with, I suppose, with how that went, and they did look very sharp, in all fairness to them. So look, I suppose that they'll be going in with their tails up anyway into that Kilkenny game as well, after kind of a shaky enough start to the league and a few kind of poor enough results. They finished strongly in the league, and they've seemed to have kind of had a perfect enough start to the championship anyway as well. Like you've already talked about, kind of Rory O'Connor, Conor MacDonald's, like as well, Paul Morris, Kevin Foley, Dee O'Keefe and Lee Chin all kind of chipping in with big scores as well. So 5-31's a good old tally to kind of slot past, even if it is against kind of a weakened Laois team.
Yeah, definitely. And another positive for Wexford is, their newcomers from the league have really settled into the championship. Gavin Bailey started, Mikey Dwyer started. We made the point of saying that, Wexford's lineup had become a bit predictable, and, their chance to win the All-Ireland with that exact lineup seemed to have passed them by in 2019. So they did need to kind of freshen it up, and these lads have definitely helped with that.
Yeah, completely. And that was a big kind of concern coming into them, was the fact that Paddy Foley had opted out this year. And Gavin Bailey seems to have slotted in there seamlessly into it. Like Paddy Foley was one of the leaders of this team, and that was a huge loss. So that is a huge positive that Gavin Bailey's kind of come in and he's filled the void in there as well. And look, Mikey Dwyer as well, kind of adding some much needed competition to the forward line. Like the forward line had kind of gone a bit predictable over the last few years. You could say exactly who's going to be the starting 6, like every single week on the big day. And so like any kind of bit of kind of competition over jerseys is going to be good. Like, and it's going to add to the team as well. So there is definitely positives there as well. You can kind of look as well. Shane Reck kind of seems to have made the cornerback position himself over his brother and everything. So it's a perfect start for Wexford, I suppose, really. And they'll probably be quietly confident themselves in going into that Kilkenny game. Like they probably still won't be the favourites, but they'll have Davy Fitz back on the sideline next week, and they'll be delighted with how the first week went, particularly the likes of Rory O'Connor's form.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that Kilkenny game now is setting up to be an absolute. That has a classic written all over, because Davy's back on the line. He'll be fired up for that game, and Kilkenny will be as up for it as they ever are, and it will be Kilkenny's first game in the championship, so they'll have that kind of opening game of championship feel about them. They'll be raring to go. Like Wexford, they just dominated this game against Laois from the start. I mean, at the water break, Laois only had hit 2 points. Like the game was over really before it began for Laois. Nobody expected them to win this game, and they never really looked like they were going to. They've really had a terrible year now so far, and they're going into the qualifiers. If they lose the qualifier match, they'll have lost all of their games this year, and that would be an absolute disaster for them.
Yeah, look, they seem to have kind of gone a little bit backwards this year and stuff as well. I know they've kind of been hit hard by injuries and stuff as well, and haven't been able to get their best team out. But like, kind of that team it's getting a little bit older, and fellas are getting a little bit past their prime. And look, they need to start getting a few fellas, like developing a few lads through. And not the greatest year for them. I know they lost Eddie Brennan at the start of the year. Like that had to be a major distraction kind of, and a disappointment for them. But a really kind of disastrous year so far for Laois, and they just don't seem to have made any kind of strides this year. They were kind of hoping to capitalise on that run a few seasons ago when they beat Dublin in the All-Ireland qualifiers. So look, they will be disappointed kind of with how it went. Like they were at home at the weekend, and the kind of manner of the defeat, and to lose by 20 points, I think they will be very disappointed. And yeah, they've kind of big year ahead of them to make sure to kind of stop this trend of them going backwards a bit, and they need to start getting back and being competitive in games and have a league campaign like Antrim had this year.
Yeah, definitely. And like, you're completely correct as well. The point that you make about Eddie Brennan leaving must have been such a huge blow to them, because they definitely had, they were building something with Eddie Brennan there. Like, he was ambitious. He clearly wanted to take Laois Hurling to the top table. And, there were definite signs that he was doing that. Their victory over Dublin sticks out, and, how well that they did against Tipperary and how well that they did against Clare, even in last year's championship, showed that he was bringing their standards up. For him to leave, and he's now the cooler manager, definitely, that stung Laois, and to hire a manager in Cheddar Plunkett, who is a brilliant manager, but he was the manager before Eddie Brennan came in. It seems like they have put themselves back a few years now, because they're back to losing pretty much every game that they play. As harsh as that sounds, it is the truth. They've lost every game they played this year. And yeah, personally, I think Eddie Brennan has the Dublin manager written all over him. I think that if he wins, a few games now in charge of Coola, I think he could get the Kilkenny job either if Brian Cody leaves in the next 2 years. But I think Eddie Brennan and Dublin would just be a perfect match, in my opinion.
Yeah, perhaps. Look, it's obviously kind of difficult to speculate when Dublin's still in the championship. Could have a great year ahead of them and stuff as well. But yeah, look, I there was kind of talk that he did fancy that job a little bit. Maybe that's why he took the job up in Coola as well. But yeah, look, there is no doubt like that he did an unbelievable job with Laois, kind of with the resources and with the facilities. I know he was kind of frustrated by the facilities and the resources that were kind of given to the team as well. But so it would be interesting to see what he could do with a county which has been backed far more, I suppose. So yeah, look, he is destined to return to inter-county management at some point, but it's just kind of a question of where. And yeah, for Laois, kind of the question for them is how can they improve from this, and how can they kind of come back from this with like a kind of aging panel and stuff like that, and how can they kind of get young lads through and start developing them.
Yeah, definitely. And as for Wexford now, the immediate future for them is that they go on to play against Kilkenny. And yeah, it's well documented, the rivalry between these two counties. Kilkenny are the team that Wexford beat in the 2019 Leinster Final. That was their last championship meeting. A lot has changed since then. Like, both sides. Kilkenny ended up making the All-Ireland final that year, and Wexford went out at the semi-final. They both lost to Tipperary. Now a lot's changed down the line. There's a lot of players, who were playing back then who aren't playing now. One of the main ones that you mentioned, obviously, is Paddy Foley. Richie Hogan was there for Kilkenny back then. Colin Fennelly was there. They're not involved this year. So a lot has changed. But, has it changed now? Has the pendulum fully swung towards Kilkenny, in your opinion?
Look, I don't think you can say it's clearly favouring Kilkenny at the moment. Like, you look kind of at the previous games, and like TJ Reid, he's nearly always had his quietest games against Wexford. Matt O'Hanlon's always seemed to have been able to do as good a job as you can do on him, and he's always been really, really effective, kind of at frustrating him. And look, that's a huge thing. For Wexford, like if TJ plays centre half forward, Matt O'Hanlon will be there, and if he's moved into full forward, Liam Ryan's going to pick him up. So I think Wexford have kind of the tools to stop TJ, and yeah, look, and you look kind of the supporting cast defence around them; it's pretty strong too. So look, I think they have the defence to kind of slow down Kilkenny and to kind of frustrate them a little bit, and they just need to make sure that the forwards are completely firing. Like, based on the form of the first week, like they looked completely free scoring. So the only concern I would have still for Wexford is about the free taking, and the free taking will need to be good if they're going to beat Kilkenny. Like, you look at again at the weekend, they three fellas on frees throughout the game. Like, Lee Chin was scored one, Paul Marr scored one, and then Mark Fanning scored one as well. Like, they need to have just a consistent free taker that is knocking over at least 80% of the frees that they're given. So I just be afraid of that. Like, that this year the kind of the free taking issues seem to be kind of be back, and I just think if they want to if they want to be beating Kilkenny, they need to be taking every single chance they get. So that's a key kind of issue going into that for me personally.
Yeah, definitely, because, you know, from Kilkenny's point of view, any mistake will be punished by TJ. Doesn't miss freeze this guy. And a key thing will be Conor McDonald's performance for Wexford, because I imagine he'll be picked up by Hugh Lawler. And yeah, his performance, because Hugh Lawler pretty much shuts down whoever he goes on to. He's a fantastic fullback. I wonder, will they play McDonald out on the half forward line to kind of keep him away from Lawler? But, you know, Wexford will need to make sure that Conor McDonald and Lee Chin are put in the best possible positions to have the best games that they can have. And Rory O'Connor now obviously hitting 1-7. He's emerged as a bit of a dark horse for Wexford, you know, as a reliable score getter potentially. And yeah, those three guys, you know, they're going to carry the burden of the scores, in my opinion. Like the rest of the forward line for Wexford, you know, seems to be more workhorse focused. You know, Mikey Dwyer can pop up with the odd goal or two, but, you know, it's them three that are going to decide, in my opinion, if they beat Kilkenny.
Yeah, look, obviously Paul Morris as well kind of seems to be a fellow that you might chalk down for 3 points before the start of every game as well, I suppose. But yeah, you look at the rest, like Kevin Bodie's going to be out around the middle. Theo O'Keefe will be working around the middle, so will Lee Moog McGovern. So yeah, I think you're spot on kind of with like that these fellas will have to have huge games. But they, like you kind of mentioned those four, kind of Lee Chin, Rory O'Connor, McDonald and Morris, and they're as good kind of score getters as anyone really. So yeah, look, that'll be a definite challenge for Kilkenny kind of going into that game, is slowing the momentum of these fellas anyway. And look, their tails definitely be up after like some of these tallies that they put up here against, like, albeit a kind of a poor enough Laois side.
Yeah, there's no doubt that their tails will be up after that. And just my wonder will be, you know, Kilkenny's defence is fantastic. Like Pádraig Walsh at 6 and Hugh Lawler at 3 are just fantastic for Kilkenny. They're imperious back there for them. And you just wonder, do Wexford have the firepower like to keep this high rate of scoring up against Kilkenny? Because, you know, in the league, they did get battered by them and they couldn't match them at all. So how much does that league defeat, you know, because we're talking about how times have changed. In my mind, I do think the ball is in Kilkenny's court here. I think I'm personally picking Kilkenny to win this game. That league game, in my mind, is going to have a huge impact on the mentality of Wexford going into this game, because they really took a battering in that game.
Yeah, I would agree with you when you say that Kilkenny are going to win. I do think that Kilkenny are going to win. I just think in a championship game, it'll probably be an awful lot tighter than that League One. I think that we've seen kind of how they've gone in recent years. Like, I know it's kind of the teams have kind of changed a little bit like over the last while and stuff, but I would expect a kind of similar pattern where Kilkenny kind of narrowly enough come out on top. But yeah, I think that league game was it'll certainly will have an impact. Like, I've already mentioned this, but like the free taking was a huge issue in that game, and there were so many missed chances in that game, and it was the amount of missed frees at the start in the first half in particular, kind of, and Wexford were just gone from the game as soon as that. It was their momentum was being completely killed. They'd be winning frees all over the place, and then they were all being missed. So look, that's like if a similar pattern happens there, then it could be a really long afternoon for Wexford. But yeah, I do think that they will up it for a championship, but I would still expect Kilkenny to come out by a bit. I'd say maybe about a goal.
Yeah, I'm picking Kilkenny as well. As good as Wexford looked against Laois, but I think this is a Laois side in turmoil. Okay, guys, so that is me and Luke's review of the Wexford versus Laois game and all the hurling action which took place over the weekend. Luke, thanks a million for coming on.
No worries. Thanks very much.
Okay, guys, so that's the end of the podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed it, and take care.